In the winter of 2002, the disappearance of Laci Peterson shocked the nation. She was 8 months pregnant, living a seemingly happy life with her husband, Scott Peterson. But in just a few days, the tragedy of her disappearance would spiral into a heartbreaking tale of murder, betrayal, and mystery that would captivate America for years. This is the story of Laci Peterson, a woman who had everything to live for, and the chilling events that led to her untimely death. Who was Laci Peterson? Laci Denise Peterson, born on May 4, 1975, in Modesto, California, was the youngest of 4 children in her family. She grew up in a loving household, known for her strong family values and close relationships. Laci was known for her kind heart, bright smile, and her love for animals. She worked at a salon, and like many women her age, she had dreams of a happy family and a fulfilling life. In 1997, Laci met Scott Peterson while they were both in college. They quickly became a couple and soon got married. By 2002, Laci was 8 months pregnant with their son, whom they had already named Connor. It seemed like the perfect life, and everyone close to them believed they were a happy couple with everything ahead of them. December the 24th, 2002. The day Laci went missing. On the morning of December 24th, 2002, Laci Peterson disappeared. Scott Peterson claimed he left their home early that day to go fishing at Berkeley Marina in San Francisco Bay. He said he had planned to fish for the day and then return home, where he expected to spend Christmas with his wife. But by the afternoon, Laci was nowhere to be found. Her stepfather, Ron Gransky, was the first to notice something was wrong. Laci had planned to walk the dog that morning, but never came home. When he went to the Peterson home, he found Laci's purse and keys inside. The dog Mackenzie was also outside, wandering around. Scott Peterson returned home later that afternoon, but there was no sign of Laci. When police arrived to investigate, they learned that Laci had disappeared under suspicious circumstances. The only clues were the dog left outside and Laci's belongings that remained inside the house. There was no evidence of a struggle. Scott Peterson's story. Scott Peterson's story about what happened that day was puzzling. He told authorities he had left the house around 9:30 a.m., drove to the marina, and fished for several hours. He didn't seem concerned when he returned home and found his wife missing. He also told police that he had spoken to Laci on the phone during his fishing trip, but investigators would later find that there was no phone record supporting this claim. Scott's calm demeanor and strange behavior led to increasing suspicions about his involvement. The investigation begins. As the days passed and Laci's disappearance became a headline story, investigators began their search. They searched the nearby neighborhood, the marina, and local areas for any signs of Laci. But the search produced few clues. The case quickly gained national attention as the public began to wonder, where was Laci Peterson? Investigators began focusing on Scott Peterson. The police were unable to find Laci, and Scott's inconsistencies began to raise alarm. He had failed to report Laci missing in a timely manner, and his calmness during interviews made people question his involvement. The discovery of Laci and Connor's bodies. After weeks of searching, on April 13, 2003, the investigation took a chilling turn. 2 bodies were discovered near the Berkeley Marina, where Scott Peterson had been fishing the day Laci disappeared. One body was found washed up on the shore. The other was later identified as Connor Peterson, Laci's unborn son. The bodies were found in San Francisco Bay, about 90 miles from where Scott had claimed to be fishing. The autopsy revealed that Laci had been strangled and Connor had died in utero. It was clear now, Laci Peterson had not simply disappeared. She had been murdered. Scott Peterson's arrest. With the discovery of Laci and Connor's bodies, police arrested Scott Peterson on April 18, 2003, and charged him with 2 counts of murder, one for Laci and one for her unborn child. The evidence against Scott Peterson began to build. Phone records showed that Scott had lied about his whereabouts. A search of his car and home revealed that Scott had been acting suspiciously, buying items such as a new car and new clothes while claiming to be devastated by his wife's disappearance. Laci's family and friends were devastated. They had trusted Scott. They had believed his version of events. But now it seemed that everything they had known about him was a lie. The trial of Scott Peterson. In 2004, Scott Peterson's trial began. It was one of the most closely watched trials in American history. The prosecution painted Scott as a man who had killed his wife and unborn son for selfish reasons, possibly to pursue an affair or simply to avoid the responsibilities of fatherhood. The defense, however, tried to argue that Scott had been framed, that the evidence was circumstantial, and that there was no proof he had committed murder. They claimed that Scott was a grieving husband who had lost his wife and son in some tragic way, and he had been unfairly targeted. But the evidence was overwhelming. In November 2004, after a lengthy trial, the jury found Scott Peterson guilty of 2 counts of murder. He was sentenced to death. After the trial, the controversy continues. Even after Scott Peterson was convicted and sentenced to death, controversy surrounded the case. There were debates over whether the death penalty was appropriate for Peterson, and some even questioned whether the conviction was fair. The case drew attention from across the world, with many people still divided on Peterson's guilt and the outcome of the trial. Scott Peterson's death sentence was overturned in 2020 by the California Supreme Court due to a technicality related to jury selection. However, he remains in prison to this day, serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The legacy of Laci Peterson's case. Laci Peterson's case is not just about the tragedy of a young woman's life cut short. It also highlights the power of public attention in criminal cases. The intense media coverage played a role in pressuring law enforcement to move quickly and effectively in the search for Laci. But perhaps most importantly, Laci's family and friends continue to honor her memory. They have worked tirelessly to keep her story alive, speaking out against domestic violence and advocating for justice for all victims of crime. Laci's legacy is one of love, family, and a reminder that justice must be pursued no matter how long it takes. Laci Peterson's story is a tragedy that changed a family forever. Her death not only took a beloved wife, daughter, and mother, but also an unborn child whose life was still full of potential. The case of Scott Peterson is a chilling reminder that sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. Thank you for watching Cold Case Uncovered. If you want to see more true crime documentaries and unsolved mysteries, subscribe to our channel, like the video, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us keep these important stories alive and ensure that justice never fades away.